All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating today. How Europe secretly shaped Geoffrey Chaucer and gave us one of the greatest works in the English language, the Canterbury Tales.
So let's just start with a big, kind of provocative question. What if one of the absolute cornerstones of English literature wasn't really a purely English invention at all? What if it was actually born on the road, from journeys across Europe? To even begin to answer that, you have to meet the man himself, Geoffrey Chaucer. But, forget that dusty, serious-looking portrait from your high school textbook. Think of him as the diplomat poet, a man of the world, a guy who was constantly on the move, doing business for the king. And these journeys, wow, they changed everything. We're talking about the 14th century, and Chaucer's royal missions took him to France and, most importantly, to Italy. What he found there was a literary scene that was just light years ahead of what was happening back in England. For him, Italy was a total revelation. Okay, so the first major influence he bumps into comes from a writer named Giovanni Boccaccio, and we can think of this as the first essential ingredient for his future masterpiece, the perfect frame. Now, Boccaccio was a pioneer of this brilliant literary gadget called the frame story. So, what is that? It's pretty simple, really. It's a structure where you have one big main story that's basically used as a container to present a whole bunch of shorter stories. A story holding other stories. And right here you can see the direct link. In Boccaccio's famous work, the Decameron, you have a group of wealthy young people who are hiding from the plague. And they tell stories just to kill time. It's clever. But Chaucer took that amazing structure and did something so much deeper with it. His storytellers are pilgrims from every single walk of life, and their stories aren't just for fun, they are a direct reflection of who they are, their jobs, their biases, their hopes. The frame becomes a mirror of an entire society. All right, ingredient number 1 is down. Let's move on to the second revolutionary idea Chaucer brought home, and this one he gets from the giant of Italian literature, Dante Alighieri. This idea was all about finding the people's voice. Dante's big, radical move was to write in the vernacular. So what does that actually mean? It's just the language that ordinary people spoke every single day, their dialect. And you have to understand, in an age when all the serious, important books were written in formal Latin, writing in the language of the street was a truly revolutionary act. I mean, Dante's choice was audacious. By writing his masterpiece, The Divine Comedy, in Italian, he suddenly made this incredible literature accessible to everyone, not just the tiny elite who could read Latin. Chaucer saw the raw power in that move and did the exact same thing for his own country. He chose to write in Middle English, the language of farmers and merchants and soldiers, and by doing so, he helped make English a legitimate language for serious art. And that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle. This one comes to us from another Italian master, Francesco Petrarca, who we just call Petrarch. And his contribution? It was all about capturing the human soul. See, Petrarch shifted the focus of storytelling inward. He became fascinated by what we call the secular, human experience. All the stuff that happens outside of purely religious concerns. We're talking about love, ambition, jealousy, personal struggles. The messy, complicated inner lives that we all have. And man, did Chaucer absorb this idea. His characters feel real to us even centuries later because they are so beautifully flawed and complex. You've got the pardoner, who is disgustingly greedy and corrupt, but tells a spellbinding moral tale. You have the amazing wife of Bath, this bold, worldly woman with her own fierce ideas about life. Even the so-called noble knight isn't perfect. They aren't just symbols, they are people. So what happens when our brilliant diplomat, poet, Chaucer, comes back to England with his mind just brimming with all these incredible new ideas from Italy? Well, he gets in the kitchen. He starts combining the ingredients to cook up an entirely new kind of English masterpiece. So let's just break down this recipe, right? From Boccaccio, he takes the frame, a story to hold all the other stories. From Dante, he takes the voice, the language of ordinary people. And from Petrarch, he takes the soul, that intense focus on flawed, real, complicated human beings. Each piece was absolutely essential. And the results of mixing all this together, it was something England had literally never seen before. A vivid, diverse, and just shockingly realistic portrait of medieval society, from the highest knight down to the lowest scoundrel. When you think about it like this, the Canterbury Tales is so much more than just a collection of English stories. In a way, it's Europe speaking through England. It's this incredible fusion of the best ideas on the continent, all reborn in a new language and a new culture.
And that right there is the mark of Chaucer's true genius. As one source puts it so well, he didn't just borrow from Europe, he transformed it into something timeless. He wasn't a copycat, he was an innovator, taking all these influences and creating something completely new and completely English.
Which kind of leaves us with one last big thought. Chaucer's travels, his openness to ideas from other cultures, gave us one of the greatest works of art ever. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What ideas are we importing today that might just be shaping the masterpieces of tomorrow?